Good morning. Welcome to the Marion County Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. We're in the Senator Hearing Room here at Courthouse Square. We begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance and invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item of business is public comment, and no one has signed up. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? No? All right. We will move then down to our consent agenda. Commissioner Brentano, is it your turn?
I don't know, but I'm certainly happy to do it.
It is.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve our consent calendar this morning. In it, Board of Commissioners, OLCC applications with recommended approval, the Monitor Market, Jar 1 LLC, Woodburn, Oregon, Bottoms Up Bar and Grill, Salem, Oregon. In Business Services, approve a recommendation to uphold pay grades for classification 29, payroll clerk 485, custodial worker 1, 486, custodial worker 2, 643 GIS analyst 1, and consider approval of a recommendation to adjust upward pay grades for classifications 460, maintenance supervisor, 482, facilities maintenance and systems coordinator, 494, facilities program manager, 496, electrician, 497, electrician 2, and 641, GIS analyst 3. Finance, approve a quitclaim deed to sell tax foreclosed property, tax ID number R13347 to the prior owner. Health, approve an amendment number 7 to the intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health Authority to add $11,305 to the financing of public health services for HIV prevention services. Legal counsel, approve a settlement for litigation matter. Public Works, approve the incoming funds. Intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation for Marion County intersection improvements for $604,317.66 through April 10th, 2028. And the last is approve the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation for Marion County Centerline Rumble Strips project for $195,967.50 through April 10th, 2028.
I will second the motion. Are you?
Motion and a second. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to ask the commissioner if he was okay with those rumble strips, because the last time he talked about them, it kind of scared him.
No, you're absolutely wrong. They may have saved my life.
Right,
I'm all for
he
it.
loves rumble strips, and I just love to say
Yeah.
rumble strips.
I'm sorry if I'm not consistent, but those I like.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve all those items. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 They're approved. Okay, we just have one action item today. It's under business services, but it is a mighty and important action item. It's to consider approval of a proclamation designating the week of April 15th through 21st, 2018 as National Volunteer Week in Marion County. And Lisa Miller is here, our volunteer coordinator. And we have many, many wonderful volunteers, do we not?
We do, yes, we do. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Lisa Miller, Volunteer Services Coordinator. I am here this morning to talk to you about National Volunteer Week, which is next week. As a Volunteer Services Coordinator, I provide support to our county departments that have volunteers in their areas, helping support their mission. And in this role, I not only get to encourage volunteerism in our departments, but I also get to hear about all of the wonderful outcomes for these volunteers that are helping. Some of those outcomes might be our inmates that are receiving support from our volunteers who are placed in our institutions who provide support groups, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous for our inmates who need that support. We have volunteers placed in our dog shelter, helping with our lost dogs and reuniting our families with their lost dogs. So we have a lot of those great outcome stories that we'll share more next week during our celebration. But today it's all about the proclamation of National Volunteer Week. In 2017, we had over 1,500 active volunteers in our county. And these volunteers, they're out there every day serving willingly, not asking for any kind of recognition or any kind of compensation. They are just out there serving out of the goodness of their own heart for their own needs and purposes. And we really want to be able to recognize them. So this morning I bring forward a proclamation for your consideration to consider Volunteer Week in Marion County, the week of April 15th through 21st. Starting next Sunday, and this week is all dedicated to our awesome volunteers that we have. We want to be able to recognize them appropriately in any chance that we have. A little background about National Volunteer Week. It was actually first established in 1974 by President Richard Nixon. And every year since then, it is a national event, and our county as well has celebrated Volunteer Week. It's all about inspiring and recognizing and encouraging people to seek out imaginative ways to engage in their community. So during National Volunteer Week and Volunteer Week in our county, our plans are to make sure and recognize as many volunteers as we possibly can. Our volunteers will be receiving a nice thank you letter and a small gift of appreciation for their efforts in our county. We will also have various volunteer activities that are highlighted on our social media sites to kind of let our community know these things that are going on behind the scenes that they may not be aware of that happens because of our volunteers. And next week, I will again be in front of you to present our annual report to give you more of that data of what those volunteers have been doing. And then we will also be celebrating a few special volunteers that have been nominated for special recognition, and they'll be receiving their awards. This is always my favorite time because it is kind of a celebration. So far, we have about 34 people that have RSVP'd, so we should have a very full house next week. So with that, I hope you will consider proclaiming Volunteer Week April 15th through 21st.
Very good, thank you. Questions for Lisa or comments?
Well, I'm going to make one kind of, it's good for the record. Next week we'll honor the volunteers, but this will be a nice time to say how pleased I am with Lisa and the job she does in finding, recruiting, encouraging, and supporting the people that matter to us so much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, for all the work you do, and thank you to the volunteers. I remember my first county commissioner meeting that I came to. It was over on Commercial Street when you were holding it in.
Maps.
No, this was over in. I don't even know what's in there now. It's on Commercial.
Salem Kaiser School District has a.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Kind of
It's
right on
across
Front
from-
Street.
Across from the
Front-
chamber, right, yeah.
Right, and that was
That's where we went.
the volunteer appreciation meeting that you were holding, and the room was packed. And I didn't realize at the time how many volunteers, and now, you know, being here and watching all the things and all the meetings I go to, I mean, we're in a meeting every day that there's some volunteers, plural, that are giving us advice and making a difference in whether it's policy or actually one-on-one with people out there in the community. It's amazing that most people don't realize that. I didn't until I actually started to participate and see what was going on. So that was my first meeting that formal meeting I came to when Commissioner Milne and the two of you were there recognizing volunteers. So that's next week.
It is next week. And it's great, because
Yeah.
we have so many volunteers, and Lisa does such a fantastic job, you really do. And I'm thinking that that Marion County actually created this volunteer coordinator position maybe back in the late 90s. So it's not all that old that we've had that, but if you can imagine each department trying to do that on their own, you know, that it's really great to have someone that does that centrally and also works closely with the board office, because we're the ones that do the appointments, as you know, and so that makes a huge difference. But as we'll hear next week, volunteers contribute massive numbers of hours worth a lot of dollars that the taxpayers then can save and put towards the things that we can't have volunteers, for example, in the jail, you know. So we have to pay for employees there.
Yeah, and not only the dollars, but the what's the knowledge worth? You know, the advice, the knowledge, the experience of all those people out there. And I think of like Joe Fowler, who serves on His background and serves on SWAMAC and, excuse me, I shouldn't use those acronyms.
Solid Waste
Solid
Management
Waste
Advisory
Management
Council.
Advisory Council. Just people like that with so much knowledge and background that it's a value. You can add up the hours, but you can't ever put a number on the knowledge they bring to the table, so it's great. How many volunteers did you say we had?
Over 1,500,
1,500.
yes.
And
So
did you-
almost as many as employees we have.
Yes.
Right.
And did you mention Joe Fowler on SWAMAC? Was that the
Yes.
person? Who
Yeah.
used to be our employee, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But
And Gloria Roy, who used to be our employee on
helping
the
with Oregon
Oregon
Garden.
Garden Foundation.
Right, so you don't
Yes.
lose that historical bit,
Right.
because one of the things we're obviously concerned about is retirements coming up. We got a young administrator who will never retire, but, where's that knowledge and history gonna go? So
We do.
if he ever retires, he's got to volunteer and come here on Wednesdays, I
Budget
think.
committee,
Yeah.
figure it.
Yeah.
That is one thing I try to do when someone retires. It's the first thing I suggest.
Come
Possibly
back.
coming back, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
We need to get, never mind, I'm not going to mention her name.
All right, you're going to move the proclamation?
Sure, Madam Chair. I'll move that we approve a proclamation designating the week of April 15th through the 21st, 2018 as National Volunteer Week in Marion County.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this proclamation. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And it's approved. And let us read the proclamation. Let's see, Commissioner Cameron.
Okay, in a matter of proclaiming April 15th to the 21st, 2018 to be Volunteer Week in Marion County. This matter came before the Marion County Board of Commissioners at its regular scheduled public meeting on April 11th, 2018. Whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take actions that change the county. And whereas during this week, all over the nation, service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for their commitment to service. And
Whereas volunteers in Marion County have undertaken responsibilities that promote the general welfare of the county, and whereas in providing these services, volunteers have demonstrated a spirit of personal concern and wholehearted willingness to help others, and whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference, and
whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our social problems, and whereas our county's volunteer force of citizens is a great treasure, and whereas these volunteers ask nothing more than the satisfaction of a job well done, and whereas these individuals are most deserving of appreciation and thanks. Now therefore, we, the Marion County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April 15th through 21st, 2018 as Volunteer Week in Marion County and urge our fellow citizens to volunteer in their respective communities. And it's signed this 11th day of April, 2018.
so, Madam Chair, if I could, before Lisa leaves, is Commissioner Cameron getting a certificate or something, recognition next week? See, I thought so. You didn't know that he's our permanent designated Commissioner Dog Dummy, and he volunteers nobly every year, and it's saved us numerous injuries. So, if you would. Thank you.
yeah, and there's
Dog treats, would you
there's some
say?
worker comp claims coming from my lower half of my body in the near future.
We'll fight it all the way.
On a serious note, you have emails for all our volunteers, right?
Yes.
So is there some way we're going to be able, you've asked them to come next week, and is there some way we can make sure through Jolene that they get a copy of the signed proclamation and
Oh,
recognizing them?
absolutely. Yeah, we can do
Okay,
that.
I think that would be a really good thing to
Yes.
let them know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone next week.
Yes.
All right, so that concludes our business here for our Wednesday meeting. I'll go ahead and read the Wednesday to Wednesday calendar. These are meetings where 2 or 3 commissioners will be present. We just concluded our board session. It's Wednesday, April 11th, still here at the Senator Hearing Room in Courthouse Square. This afternoon, Wednesday at 2 o'clock, is a one-on-one meeting with elected official Bill Burgess. That will be in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor at Courthouse Square. Tomorrow, Thursday, April 12th at 7:30 is the monthly Kaiser Marion County meeting at Sherry's Restaurant, 4998 River Road North in Kaiser. That'll be followed at 10 o'clock with the North Santiam Canyon Regional Tour, departing from the Board of Commissioners office at 10 a.m. And there's a whole agenda of places that you all are going to be out at the canyon. And then at 6:30 is the North Fork Road Community Meeting at Camp Cascade, 33806 North Fork Road in Lyons. Monday, April 16th at 8:30 a.m. is our weekly calendar review in the Silverton Conference Room, 5th floor at Courthouse Square. That's followed by management update at 9 a.m., same place. And then at 11 a.m., same place, is a Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council planning meeting. At 1 o'clock on Monday, April 16th, is a one-on-one meeting with elected official Tom Rolfing. That'll be followed at 2:30 with a one-on-one department head meeting with Scott Emery. And then Tuesday, April 17th at 8:30, we have a one-on-one meeting with elected official Lori Steele. And that's again in the Silverton Conference Room, 5th floor at Courthouse Square. Finally, a week from today, April 18th at 9 a.m., we're back here in the Senator Hearing Room for our regular Wednesday board session. That's a little bit. So, why don't you talk a bit about the
Oh my
tour
gosh.
that you're going to on the canyon that you and John Huffman.
Oh, in fact, I was not able to get to AOC because I was at the chamber lunch. I didn't get there. I just caught the end of John's presentation. He was at AOC on Monday. Were you there when he
I
gave
was
his whole
there,
presentation? So
He mostly just talked about all of the opportunities that there are and how he wants to work with people, and he gave us his personal cell number and his email address, and talked about when he was in the legislature and work groups that he led, and kind of his belief system around working with local government.
So yeah, Thursday, tomorrow is going to be a long day. We're going to show him all the things that we've been working on in the canyon. Danielle Gonzalez and I went down and updated Lynn County commissioners 2 weeks ago, and so they're aware of what's going on and can help with appropriate time and have helped on some things. And so talking about the water sewer program, obviously the mixing tower, the bridge, the grant, the $8.1 million bridge grant that we got for Mill City. Talking about some of the challenges up there, and I think it's just going to be really good exposure for us. And as you know, Madam Chair, when we went back to Washington, D.C. together that a few years ago, we heard regional.
Yep.
And that's what D.C.'s interested in, so we're going to be able to show a real regional approach, how we've been taking this approach to the canyon. It's interesting, though, working with the governor's office and James LeVar, and nothing's been formally announced yet, but trying, these zones that were in, what do they call these zones that were in the federal deal? I'm trying to think, in the new legislation that they just passed, that they could identify certain zones. I don't think we can get the canyon into that as a zone, is what I'm being told. And
Really?
I've been trying to work really hard to do that. So it'll be interesting to see where these zones come. And I just got a text message from him yesterday, or email from him
So
saying,
what kind of zones are they?
they're the,
An economic designation, and they certainly ought to qualify
yeah.
as unique,
Well, is
maybe
it because
anywhere.
we have such big population in Salem, and because Sid Lyken was talking about that same thing with Lane County. He wants to do this a broadband thing for Oak Ridge, but because you have the large population base in Eugene, Springfield, it disqualifies the rural communities around it. Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
let's see, because he got hung up, he couldn't make the, so, opportunity zones.
Okay.
That's what they're called, opportunity zones, and the state has to submit them to the feds by a certain date, like by tomorrow or something like that. So they were in this meeting all day yesterday, and, he said that nothing's final yet, but he was working on trying to, 5 opportunity zones for Marion County, and that would be something that we could focus on with the feds and the state to help with economic development. So I don't know the details. This is just something new that came out of that, the federal omnibus bill that they just passed. So that'll help, but I don't know that he got one for the canyon, so we'll see how that works. So the tour tomorrow is going to be really good. I'm glad that John's paying attention to us, and he obviously knows about rural things. He's from, he represented a rural area. And then we got to come back at the end of that tour And then I'm going to turn around, and I think you're going to
I'll
go.
meet you up there, yes. I'll also meet you at Ferris's, I'm planning tomorrow. If there's one meeting, might show up, but I'll plan on
Okay.
taking a tour there.
So I'm going to stay in the van with him the whole time so we can talk, and then come back in the van, and then I'm going to get in my car, turn around, and go up to Camp Cascade for our, we've been doing it, what, twice a year, or once, I think we're down to once a year now, just giving an update to the citizens on what we've been doing and listening to their feedback. Just really proud of our public works and our public safety people and how they've worked together to clean all that up and make it a really nice place for families to visit. And we were at, well, our community meeting we had at the Gates Fire Hall. Remember, we had that one couple that said it's been so nice up the Little North Fork to see what's happened. Now we just got to keep those thieves from stealing all the money this summer. And then quarterly, we're still working, and Brian May and Barb are working with U.S. Forest Service, BLM, us, and trying to figure out how to regionalize that fee-based, one person picking up garbage instead of every agency having to do
State,
it.
county.
And Deputy Ferrin, I think it's down in New Mexico someplace, or Arizona, where they have that same type of a deal, and they have actually figured it out how to do it. So he's actually got some information, and he's going to present to that, and so we can be creative. So it'll take us a while. It's not like running a business where you can go like that tomorrow, but
Well, on the thief part, I heard, number one, they caught
they
the
caught
thief.
some, and it wasn't just us. It's a
Right, it's a group traveling through.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is they changed the protocol, right? So they're picking up the money at the end of the day, not letting it sit overnight.
Right, that's another one, but then they also worked with OCE, Correction Enterprises, to design a new box that is going to be supposedly harder to get to as well. So there's things that they're working on, and it's great to see Correction Enterprises involved in that. And
They probably lend a bit of an expertise in that, too.
right, those guys inside the prison can figure out how to, yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
And,
good.
and then yesterday, speaking of OCE, they were a major sponsor for the governor's reentry
Yeah, that was great.
council summit, which we had over 200 people, the kickoff. Dave's Killer Bread, and the governor spoke. Our keynote speaker, Scott Bunnick, was, did you get to hear him talk?
Just the last part, yeah.
Talk about the things he's done in California, and it's all volunteer-driven, and some real exciting things that could be, it's changed the prison system down there and changed people's lives, as we've been doing here in Marion County, really good stuff for a long time, thanks to your leadership. And so I'm excited to see how that conversation goes and continues to go around the state, and also maybe we can learn some things as we travel around to continue to do even more here. Somebody stood up yesterday and, it was that Public Safety Coordinating Council, and talked about how much money Washington puts into the youth homeless. Was it like 43 million versus our 3.5 million?
Right.
Of course, I leaned over to you and said, well, if you look at their per capita income, it's like almost double what our per capita income is in Oregon, and their tax base, everything. It's just, you can't even relate to
Right.
Washington. So we're working on it. Appreciate.
Yeah, well, and I didn't say anything when I heard that, but we used to put roughly 30 million into youth, not just youth homelessness, but youth generally, and the communities could decide how to use that money.
Yeah, children and families.
Right.
Right.
But then money got redirected, so. Yep.
Well, and I'm thankful that we're here close by, because justice reinvestment is huge, and to be able to go over there and make sure that legislators, as we know, institutional knowledge continues to, kind of like we were talking about volunteers, continues to go down if you don't educate people. But the things that he was talking about through volunteers, the things that we're already doing, we got to make sure we have the money there to do those things, as well as the volunteer organizations to help with justice reinvestment. So it was great to have the governor there. If she's the governor next year, she at least gets it. I mean, she at least sees that there's a whole community that cares, and that needs to be in the budget. And there was, obviously, Senator Dembro was there for a little while, and Representative Pelusa, I think it's Pelusa.
Yeah, I talked to her.
Right. and she's passed. She participated in the simulation. That simulation, we're actually going to I think we're going to bring back the trainer that did it. Well, it was kind of when she started debriefing, she didn't understand Oregon, and she's from Arizona, and so people were talking about, well, how come we can't get people to have driver's license and ID cards? I went and grabbed the microphone from them and said, we're at 75% now. We were at 0 back in 2007 when you and I started working on that.
Yeah.
So
The bill that ODOT created for us, right?
right, and it took them like 8 years to
Yeah.
actually get an agreement done. Don't get me started on
Right.
that. But we're thinking about having her come back and then take some of our people that understand. Maybe it's like our lead coordinator, and there's a guy that works for OCE that actually came through the system, and getting some people that understand our system to be the trainer on that simulation.
Uh-huh.
People loved that simulation. They were so frustrated trying to go from jail to get their ID, then they'd come and to get a job, but then they had to go back to the employment center because they didn't have certain things. And it was like, to get through all that, and they go, wow, how do I do this? And trying to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's coming out and trying to change your life around. It was really eye-opening for people. So it was
good.
great exercise. I've done those a couple of times. One was for, I think on SNAP, on food stamps at our
Yeah,
health
I did the
department.
poverty simulation.
yeah.
Right. Similar.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to spend the time to do that, and it's going to be, it's just, as Colette said in her closing remarks, this is not a flash in the pan. This is just the beginning of a conversation that we need to continue to make a difference. Sam, you're looking at me like.
Well, you guys were doing such important things, but I did have one enlightening thing yesterday I went to the state and breakfast, since you were both busy, talked a little longer than normal, that's all right.
Well, you were talking for three of us.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right.
But who really
Appreciate
talked
that.
a long time, and I was kind of, and this is what I wanted to tell you about Carrie Sessom. She owns a
Right.
restaurant there, but it's with volunteers. It was just kind of rhyming. I don't know that I've ever really listened to all the things that she does, and she's
amazing.
concerned about homelessness, mental health, drug and alcohol. She's got to be one
She
of our
actually
best.
sat in
Yeah,
because she
she
normally
sat in.
doesn't do that. Good.
She almost went too long. I mean, she just wouldn't stop, but because there were so many wonderful things, not wonderful things, but that she cares
Passionate
about is
about, right.
wonderful.
Well, she's on our public safety council.
We
She
appointed
had-
her. She
I
was
didn't
there,
even-
yes? Yeah.
she
Get
had-
into that one,
Yeah,
so.
she was at her first meeting last
And
night.
so we know drug and alcohol, mental health.
Yeah.
She's absolutely interested, and I kind of wrote it down. She has a personal and historical perspective that matters. She knows what it means. So,
She was the featured person in our very first breakfast video.
really.
She and her daughter.
And I was probably there, and I didn't.
You were there.
Was that 2009, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were the speaker.
I guess
Yeah, I
didn't.
just got back from Israel. I remember using David and Goliath as an analogy of having to slay the giant of all the obstacles coming back.
Yeah,
It's
you,
like, I remember that meeting.
Just because I'm thinking of it, and in case I don't talk to Alan Haley, you may have seen a note from state and asking about coordination with public works projects. They were telling.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Well.
'Cause
I
Alan
just
responded to him.
Oh, did he? That's what I don't know. I wanted to follow up on it because it makes such sense that it's kind of like letting them tag along on our contracts, but it makes good sense. The machinery's there, the people are there, so that setup cost goes away. And they felt like they can double mileage per dollar is how I'd say it. So I'd sure like to cooperate with that if we can.
Yeah, I saw, I think Alan hit a reply all
Okay.
last week or something saying, hey, this is great. I don't know if they're coordinating. I'm assuming I'm not going to get involved unless the ball gets dropped. But did Keith talk about that?
Yes, and so I wanted to follow up, but
You might just ping Alan and make sure, yeah.
Yep.
Because he was very open to that.
so they may need to take the initiative to contact Alan again.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
all right.
All right. Anything else? Well, then we are adjourned.